What makes a civ good? What makes a civ bad? Is it the just flat strength that you get? Is it having an incredibly strong, unique improvement? Is it the consistency in your strength? Is it the war ability you get that scales into the late game? Is it the sim perspective you get that just allows you to scale really well? Is it having a really strong UA that just always lets you be relevant? Is it having an unstoppable timing that everyone has to respect that is in the game? Is it just a really good civ that is good at everything? What makes civs bad? Is it just no bonuses that are essentially just worse than being vanilla? Like, is it vanilla civs essentially that are just worse than vanilla in some cases? Well, we're going to talk about Madagascar, which in the last tier list I rated C, near the top of C. And if we talk about the things that make good civs good, Madagascar is none of those things. But they're really fucking annoying, and that's why they're banned pretty consistently. Let's talk about Madagascar. What is Madagascar's goal? Madagascar's goal is very easy to understand. You get 6 culture and 6 faith from holy sites. For the most part, that's it. And does this make a good civ? No, I don't think so. Does it make an interesting civ? Maybe. There's some stuff you can do, but what I'd argue is that it's fairly pigeonholed in what it wants to do. Every single game, regardless of what style of Madagascar you're playing, you want to be piety. Every single time. You need a faith pantheon. It's not you want. You need a faith pantheon. And almost every time you're playing some form of tall, city of God, profit planting game and trying to turn it into something. I think we're going to talk about Madagascar. We're going to talk about the options that they have. We're going to talk about what makes them cool and how you can actually break the mold of normal Madagascar. But yet, if you do consistently go with that normal mold, what can you do with it? Okay, so let's start. 6 culture, 6 faith from holy sites. Now, the one thing I want to make very clear, the important thing is not the faith. It's the culture. 6 flat culture on the ground is fucking insane. Like, that is incredible. Culture is something, when you play piety, you never can really seem to get enough of in the early game. This is essentially a free oracle. I mean, it's probably better than oracle because it will let you finish piety much faster. And what it does is it lets you enhance with your piety finisher before turn 50 most of the time, which is huge because a lot of the times you want to keep the engine rolling. You want to keep planting profits. Normal idea is, okay, if I'm playing Madagascar and I found my first religion, of course. After that you found that first religion, every single subsequent profit should go on the ground. You should not be going for unity. You should just be planting them. Why? Because of the culture and the faith. Not just the faith. It's mostly the culture because the culture is what allows you to finish piety, which gets you another free profit, right? And in addition to all the other really good stuff it gives you. And it boosts your profit plans once you finish piety. So in a sense, let's talk about the very general way you play Madagascar. You pick a faith pantheon. Normally it's spirit animals. Sometimes it's plantation faith. It used to be stone circles was a good option. Not anymore since the nerf. But, there's a plethora of different faith pantheons you can pick. But spirit animals and plantation faith are definitely the 2 largest ones. After that, what should your founder be? I think the interesting thing about Madagascar to me is that you don't need Messiah. I think if there's any civ that wants Messiah, it's Madagascar, but you don't need it. If we're thinking about, okay, I don't want to buy any profits after industrial. I just want to solely focus on, generating faith, generating profits before industrial. Once we get industrial, I'm going to be focused on buying great people. I'm not going to be buying any profits. Okay, if that's your goal, on average, you are going to get one additional profit if you take Messiah over Salat. The difference is that one extra great person, you're only going to see the value of much later on. Salat is probably the best founder in the game right now. 4 base hammers is a lot. And if you can get that in your cap and you can maybe build a wonder faster like Mausoleum or something, which is one of Madagascar's favorite wonders, we're talking about a lot of value here. But typically Madagascar, so this is something I see a lot of people do wrong. Madagascar does not want to be spending faith on anything except profits or units, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So typically you want something like Feed the World or Rel Center, something that is very strong. And when we're talking about what you want to be doing as Madagascar, 9 times out of 10, you take Reformation policy as your second piety policy, because we need to be founding fast and we need to secure City of God. If we do not get City of God, the game is not looking good. So we need to secure City of God. We need to get our faith pantheon working. We need to get that religion as soon as possible, because once City of God comes down, the faith engine really starts. And that's the most important thing. After that, it can be Relcom, it can be Rel Center, it could be a number of different things. But you don't want a building. And I see a lot of people do this. Buildings will slow down your faith gen substantially. You will lose at least 1 profit of value, just because of delaying the engine from really starting to roll will obviously hurt you in the long run. So you don't want to take a building. I see a lot of people take pagodas on Madagascar, and it's wrong. You need to take something immediate, something that gives you benefit right away. Fortunately, your finisher is always Unity. Some people would argue Disciples is a good play, and I'll talk about why that has some merit. But I used to be a fan of Disciples, but Unity really is the way to go. Unity is the difference between at least 1 great person, usually 2, 1 profit plant, usually 2. But it also is hammers, and the benefit you get from Disciples is very big, 2 culture and 2 gold, but 2 hammers is usually worth more, at least in the early game, which is when you're most vulnerable. The Rova is an interesting building. I don't think it's particularly strong. It fits really clunky into build queues, but I was just talking about this with a good friend of mine, and he made a really good point where this building is kind of an insurance policy against early war. You can feel confident after going Shrine just building this wall if you're next to Madagascar, or if you're next to Macedonia or Goths or something like that, and feel confident that it's not a complete waste to build your walls. At least you're getting something, and that is true. So this is something really good to consider. I think the main reason people ban this civ is because of the Inquisitor. And we're going to talk about that. Instead of a normal Inquisitor, this has a Rova. And a Rova is a ranged unit with 8 melee strength, 14 range strength, 14. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. 14 range strength. A combo is 11. So this is substantially stronger than a combo. Also, it has 3 move. Interesting thing though, only 1 range. The cool thing is, the promos you get on these units are random after you attack for the very first time. So I'm not going to read these because these are, I don't know what the fuck these names are. But they're usually really, really strong benefits. So for instance, allows the unit to attack twice, 4 sight, 4 range, gains great general bonus, 75% bonus against wounded foes. I mean, there's a lot of other really cool ones. Fully heal on kill, 25% bonus in friendly territory, 50% defensive bonus, minus 50% attacking bonus, right? So there's a lot of really cool stuff. This is like a fun little mini game when you're using these to save the correct ones. Like once you see Mosasa pop up, you have to save this thing. This thing is fucking crazy. Once you see this one pop up, you have to save it. Once you see Messina, it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna have a lot of extra utility here. The important thing is, even though it's one range, it's a ranged unit, which means it still does a ranged attack, so it doesn't take damage from cities. These things are so cheap. Okay, and because your faith gen is really crazy as this civ, if you were going to war with this civ, you can likely buy 2 of these per turn. Okay, think about that. You can buy 2 of these per turn. Do you understand how much units you can get onto the map if you're also building units? This is the unit flood civ. This civ puts so many units in front of the opponent, they don't know what to do with. These units, if you have enough faith, can wall knights. They can wall anything up until cav. Like these units are so obnoxious. It is so obnoxious to attack Madagascar if they have gotten their thing rolling. And this is why I didn't include holy warriors on this, because these units are your holy warriors in the early game, and you don't need holy warriors. You need to get your game stronger. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, this is the only guide that I can think of where I'm actually going to have 2 parts, because this has such a distinct play style that is like nothing else. Okay, you have the first path, which is your faith equals culture. Planting these tiles with finishing piety is going to give you 11 faith per tile. That is monstrous. That is ridiculous. That is so much culture on the ground. Okay? You're able to push any secondary tree you want and still go into ratio and still finish any ideology you want, because it's just that much culture. You should be expecting to get at least 500 culture per turn, even if you don't have Sistine. And let's talk about if you do have Sistine or you do have Alhambra, this can get ridiculous. Okay? These are the priorities of this civ, where you want to be stacking these culture bonuses. You want to be investing in something that really likes the early culture, aka commerce or aesthetics. These are your 2 best friends. And this is why Disciples is an argument that you could have, where you trade the early impact you get from Unity for the scaling of 2 additional culture and 2 additional gold. If you're commerce, those are the only two things that actually matter, because you're going to be buying most of your units. You're going to be buying CS. You're going to be pushing through autocracy policies. That's how you scale. You're going to be pushing through ratio. It's not the hammers. So I could understand that, but in my opinion, you don't always know you're going to do commerce. And not only that, you do get a lot of utility from having 2 extra hammers on all of these tiles, especially when you get them, right? The 2 hammers are worth substantially more, not to mention the faith, but the 2 hammers are worth substantially more than the 2 culture and 2 gold early game. And that's when we need to make sure we're playing safe and we're like being aware of our surroundings. So this is the one play style, and I'm going to show an example game. But typically, this civ loves doing bomber play. It loves doing bomber auto commerce buying, stuff like that. This civ loves that because it's a ton of gold. It's a ton of culture. The only downside is a lot of the times your science is a little lacking, but piety is going to have better science than tradition would. So it honestly balances out. Like you can expect a pretty consistently good Great War Bomber timing into someone, and that's usually how you take over the game as Madagascar. The other way is faith equals demos. So we're spending faith in this case on great people or on great prophets. In this case, we're spending it on these boys, our inquisitors.
Madagascar does not have to play wide, or it does not have to play tall. It's very common to do a 3-city Madagascar play. It's very common to do a 4-city Madagascar play. That's Piety. I've done 7-city Madagascar plays. You take, still do your Faith Path. You're still looking to do the same thing, but you're taking Feed the World and you're taking Rel Center. And trust me, you're spreading that religion fast. It's gonna feel good. It's gonna feel good. Maybe you don't even need City of God. And probably you do, because new City of God is substantially better than old one. But on old City of God, you frankly didn't even need City of God. You could just take indulgences or something and have a really strong game. You could build a bunch of, spearmen and catapults and just buy a shitload of these. Every single time, you're probably making around 100 faith per turn. You buy 3 every 2 turns in conjunction with also building spears and catapults and combos. You're going to have so many units. It's actually I'm not going to say it's easy, but this Civ is very, very strong for aggressive early timings. But at the same time, it can also be one of the most glass cannon-y, vulnerable Civs in the game. It's such an interesting Civ because of the dichotomy you have when you pick it. It's hard to kind of understand the full potential of the Civ. I'm obviously hyping up the Civ because I think it's really cool. I will still say being pigeonholed into the same strategy is not a good feeling. For instance, let's say you don't have plantations and you're looking to get spirit animals and spirit animals gets taken. Your game is in a really bad spot because it's likely you're going to miss first religion. It's likely that a lot of these things are going to happen. And if that does happen, not having a faith path is going to really bite you. So, because people are going to try to snipe your thing. That's kind of like the one interesting thing about Madagascar is people will try their absolute hardest to grief your game by taking City of God, by taking these faith pantheons, because you're a one-trick pony. And if you take it away from them, they're really kind of they're going to have a much worse game. I wanted to touch on this game. It's on my YouTube channel, so if you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching it. It is the most weird and random Madagascar game I've ever played. I called it here a weird way to win tourism. But you'll notice, I did 5 cities here. I built a Rova because Khan is an extremely aggressive player. He's very, very, very good, and he's very scary. So I planted 5 cities here, took City of God, the lot. I did exactly what I mentioned earlier, where my priority is Faith Path. So in this case, it was Earth Mother. I did Messiah here because I wanted Messiah. I just wanted to try Messiah. And then I also did Feed the World because I knew I was going to be working a lot of these mines, and Feed the World is obviously one of the best beliefs in the game for early spreading religions. Let's just take a second to admire, and then we pick City of God. This is before the City of God buff. This strategy is obviously substantially better now. But look at this tile. It's 4 food, 1 hammer, 3 gold. It's incredible. New City of God, the tiles are going to be a little different. They're actually going to be better. But look, we are already turn 46. We're at 34 faith per turn. Let's skip ahead a little bit. You can't really see this. Let me put this on. So it's turn 46, 34 faith per turn. Let's skip ahead. We're on turn 64. We are at 127 faith per turn, and I'm about to spawn another prophet. So let me plant that real quick. Probably. Unless I buy units. I'm not sure what I do. Yeah, okay. I plant it. We're at 145. Our Inquisitors are just as cheap as missionaries, I believe. So 105 for an Inquisitor. 105 for an Inquisitor. So we're getting about 3 Inquisitors every 2 turns with this. So pretty much in line with what we were saying earlier. And then I used this advantage that I had, and I just went crossbows because I got Mausoleum as this Civ. So I'm getting a lot of gold generation by planting profits. And I just went crossbows into Khan. Khan's an extremely strong war player. But I just want you to take a look at how many units I just swarm him with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 units. We've been at war for... Okay, so we're at the same here. So I declared war on him in 73. Okay, I'm way over 17. The point is, we're able to get a lot of units out very, very quickly because these units are essentially just... They don't follow the normal rules of Civ. Normally, Civ is going to look at... When you press F9, you're going to see, okay, this guy's got a lot of hammers. He's gonna be able to kill me. That's not the case for this, because we don't really care that much about hammers. We care about the faith. And the faith is essentially hammers. So if we think of it as a compo, and we're getting 3 compos every 2 turns, compo... Is it really 75 hammers? That sounds expensive. I don't think it's 75. How much is a compo? All right, let me look at how much a compo is, because I'm not trusting this right now. Is it really 75 hammers? It's 50. Okay. So 50 hammers every 2 to 3 turns. So that's 75 hammers. We're essentially, with this faith is translating to 75 hammers per turn. So whatever the demos are, plus 75 hammers is what we actually are at. It's very rare that someone's going to be able to be that much ahead in hammers that we are not able to surpass them, or that we're not able to keep up, especially with the unique unit that is so good. So fast forward a bit, we end up killing Khan. 160 hammers here, or 160 faith per turn. Gonna plant something else. I actually go aesthetics here because I just, I'm feeling feisty, I guess. I don't know why I went aesthetics here, but I kind of wanted to try the meme. Yeah, like, look, it's turn 104. We're at 300 culture per turn. Which is just unreal. Just an enormous amount of culture. Fast forward. Oops, just skipped ahead. Fast forward, we are 1300 science. And then we're pushing tourism. We're at 1700 tourism per turn. The reason why this is so good is because hotels give you tourism based on how much culture you have planted. And just look at how much culture is on the ground in our cities because of these tiles. We just got nuked here, but you can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it really 6? Yeah, maybe 6. We're at 1100 culture per turn, 252 faith per turn. I mean, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. This is just absurd. The amount of tourism pre-internet, pre-National Visitor Center is 700. That's how much I usually have after internet and after NVC. Okay, once we get NVC up, what are we at? And all of this is because of planted culture. We're at 1600 because we just got internet on the same turn. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. There's a lot of different ways to play this Civ. You can play really aggressively. You can play to have either aesthetics like I did, or you can go commerce. You can push ratio fast. The point is, the real value in this Civ is not the faith, and it's not the faith per turn. It's actually the culture you're getting from planting it on the ground. So think of any strategy that revolves around having or filling policies very easily, or filling policies full. I think one of the best examples is commerce. Commerce is notorious for taking a long time, notorious for demanding cysteine for most builds, and It really likes to have a faith source because you're able to buy a bunch of great people. I have 5,000 faiths stored up, and I've bought almost all of my great people. And I'm still able to buy a bunch of musicians, but writers and artists. No other Civ can do something like this. It's a very versatile Civ in what it can do after it does its strategy, but the obvious problem is that doing the strategy itself, and we ended up winning this game, but doing the strategy itself isn't versatile. So you're in a kind of weird situation where it's like you have a lot of freedom to do what you want after you do the restricting strategy that you're kind of forced into. So I know this wasn't a normal type of Ramble video, but I wanted to kind of highlight that the Civ is not weak. The thing that makes it weaker is that it's pigeonholed, but it can be very aggressive. It can be extremely oppressive to especially new players who aren't ready for this. It's very commonly banned. If you want to grief this Civ, take City of God, and they're pretty much irrelevant. So that's all I got. Let me know if you have any questions about Madagascar or anything that I kind of covered here. But yeah, thanks for watching.